So first things first, we have our new little folder because we want to keep things organized. Right click, and this will open up my little content creation menu. I can also click add over here, give me the same thing. I'm going to right click and go click level here, and it'll make me a new level. This is going to be a flat, huh? What's up? Hmm? Well, I mean, like to even eat like this is literally as soon as you turn it on. Like what this looks like is irrelevant. This could be your default scene. I'm trying. I don't even know if I still have that in this project to be honest with you, because it's not saved, but like initially, like you have to actually save it when it first pops up. So I don't think I have it in this project any longer. Um, if you want to, you can shortcut this at the top of the screen here. If I click on New Level under File, it'll actually give me an option. So I could make an open world, either with a landscape or not, or a basic level. We're not going to get into the differences and stuff. You guys don't want open world, so just if you do this, stick with either basic or empty level. Um, so so basic. Where's all my lights? Oh, I'm unlit. That's why. So basic comes in with lighting already. So like it gives you a directional light, which is like the sun. It gives you your exponential height fog, which basically gives you all of this like refraction and makes it not look terrible. Sky atmosphere is also part of that, but it's actually like the dome too. And then skylight is basically just like ambient lighting. Um, Sky sphere is the actual dome, although it doesn't seem to be doing anything in this particular scene. And then volumetric clouds is the clouds. Um, if you just pick a plane, so if I went here to new level and just hit empty, it would give me what I usually have, which is just this empty void. Um, by right clicking in here and making a level this way, you are going to end up with just an empty void like this. We're now in the new world. Because I didn't want all that other stuff, we just went with this. Um, but making a new level is literally just that. Um, I can right click and go to place actor here, which is kind of new actually, but I'm not going to deal with that. Um, you can hit this place actor panel if you're going to be grabbing a bunch of stuff. I don't personally like this, but it is an option. Um, I'm going to grab my light. I'm going to grab my cube for my floor. Set this to 20 by 20. And then I'm going to go ahead and throw my player start in here, which is going to set up my, like the spot that my character actually pops in at. So that's the basic scene setup. Does anybody have any questions on any part of that? Okay. So if everybody's cool on how that works, the next part is making the actual like classes that do stuff. So first one is the game mode. This is the one that defines like what we're going to use for the this particular thing. So who wants for GM? Me. And then I need my pawn and I need my controller. So controller is the one that's going to handle the inputs and actually be in charge of like, what I see and stuff like that. This will be more important later in more complex more complex projects, but right now it's kind of just a thing you need. Um, and then the last one is, of course, your pawn, which is the thing you're going to physically be controlling. The game mode, I'm going to tell, like, hey, you're going to use these. So here inside the game mode, over here in the details panel, I'm going to say default pawn class. And I'm going to go ahead and pick my Pong 2 guy. And then same thing here, controller class, Pong 2. Compile and save, and then I can just close this because that's all I'm doing there. Over here in world settings, I'm going to override the game mode for this level. And I'm going to tell it to use the Pong 2 game mode. And now if I hit play, I cannot move around anymore because I'm using my Pong pawn and it doesn't have anything set up for movement or anything like that. Does anybody have any questions about this part? Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's mostly just about building a mental model of what you're actually doing. The two things I changed in the game mode are the player controller and the player pawn. So the game mode, like I mentioned, and by the way, if this ever pops up like this, it's fine. This is just saying that you didn't change anything on the graph, so there's nothing to show you. But so this is just all details panel. So right here under classes, you can see I changed the default pawn class because I made a pawn class for this. And I changed the player controller class because I made a player controller for this. These other things are more for multiplayer games, so you won't really have to worry about that for right now. And then, how did I make the floor 20 by 20? So when you click on something in the level, under details, you can access its transform. I just clicked scale 20 and 20, and because this is a 1 meter by 1 meter cube, 20 times its original size on X and Y will just make it 20 meters by 20 meters. But scale is just a multiplier of the original size, so knowing how big it was originally helps with that too. Any other questions about anything so far? Okay. So now that we have our pawn and our stuff, we're going to go ahead and open this up and make this look like a thing. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and make a collision. And I'm going to make a box collision because I don't want the default route, because the default route has no collision, which means I can't bump into stuff. So I want the base of this actor to have collision. So basically, wherever this box is where the actor is how this reads. Otherwise, it doesn't really make much of a difference. Volumes you don't ever scale, you just play with the extents. So this one's going to be, if I remember correctly, no. Or yeah, it's going to be 50. This is going to be 100, so 50. And then this is the extent from the middle because that's where the root of this is. I just know that. Um, but anytime you do extents, it's usually from the center. So 200 is 200 to the left and 200 to the right. 50 is 50 forward and 50 back, and 50 is 50 up and 50 down, which gives me 100 by 100 by 400. So when I add my cube, no. When I add my cube, I can in fact scale the cube by 4, and it fits perfectly. Because I'm using the box, I can also actually just turn collision off for the cube. This is not necessary, but you can. And then I just gotta tell the box that I want it to block instead of overlap. Otherwise, you can leave it the way it was, and it's fine. I'm gonna go ahead and add my spring arm. And this is just because I want something to hold onto the camera and handle collisions for me. Not really necessary for this particular game, but still a nice thing to have. And then the length of the spring arm is right here. And then you can play with the offsets to make it go up and down. So I'm gonna go with like 300 and 800, so I have a nice little vantage. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add a camera to the end of the spring arm. So when I click on this thing and click add, it's gonna parent it directly for me. So now the camera is attached to the spring arm. It's offset for some reason. So by a little bit, I'm not sure why, but we can just zero that out and it'll go back to where it's supposed to be. If I had not done that, it would have came in like this, where it's not parented, and then I can just parent it. It's really not that big a deal, and then I can just zero that out because it'll keep its offset from the origin. So you can just attach things however you want them to be attached. I actually want this to attach to this. Oh, great. No, I want this to. One second here. Come on. Oh, there we go. Which folder is game mode and BP in? Okay, so first one, I scaled the cube by 4 on Y, just because it's already 1 meter by 1 meter otherwise. And then I just want to make it 4 wide, so it's 400. Which folder does the game mode's in the same folder as the rest of the stuff? So in the content drawer, I just make the game mode. Not really sure what. I don't understand the question. Yeah. Let me know exactly what you mean by that. But anyway, so make sure you have the things parented the way you want them to be. So right now, if the cube moves, it's going to leave the collision behind because the collision is the root. It's also not going to bring the spring arm or the camera along because they are also parented to the root and not the thing. If I were to move the spring arm, then the camera is going to come along. So always make sure that you have things parented the way you want them to be moving around. This dude also going to. Yeah, so like for the hierarchies, it works the same way as any other like tree. If I click and drag something on top of something else, it'll either attach or detach it from that thing, and then the root will be replaced. Basically, if I drag the camera on top of the box, it'll replace the camera with the box as the root. This works the exact same way in like Blender, Maya, anything like that that has a tree system. But so now that I have my camera and my collisions and stuff, if I file and save and come back out here and hit play again, now can't really see it very well because my thing is white. By the way, if you hit the default thing, it'll just set it to the world grid material, so you can see a little better. But so now I got my thing here, and it still doesn't move, but it spawns in my pawn, and now I can see myself. Next is going to be the inputs, and this is where we're going to actually make it move. So this is a recap basically. So if you already have a game mode and stuff in your Pong folder, you don't need to remake it. I'm literally just remaking everything. So like I already have my regular Pong folder here that's red. And then I just made this Pong 2 folder that I'm remaking all this new stuff in. So anything that you like, you only need one copy of this stuff. So if you already have one in your Pong folder, then you don't need to do the Pong 2 thing. If you don't already have one, then you want to stick it in Pong. Right. So next thing is going to be the inputs. I'm going to make a new little folder for this, and this will be my. Now I can name this inputs again because it's under a different file tree, but that's kind of confusing. So I'm going to go ahead and just name this inputs 2, so I know that it's the second one. And then in here under my little input section here in the middle, I have input actions and mapping contexts. If you hit play and it doesn't show the camera view, you have to either make sure that your game mode is set to use your new guy. So inside the game mode, make sure that your default pawn class is that thing, and then also make sure that in your oh up here in the upper left. So even unlit though, it should essentially still like everything should still show up. It just like it's not giving you shadows, so it'll be a flat everything. If it's not showing up, either make sure it's set up in your game mode, and then make sure your game mode is set in your world settings. If either of those aren't the case, then it won't do it. And then the world grid thing, or the world grid material, if you come down here to materials and hit this little like like turnaround arrow, this will flip it back to default, and this is the engine default. If you try and search for it, I don't think it pops up unless you turn on show engine content. In which case it should show up then, but the shortcut way is to just hit that little button there and it'll snap it to the default. Let me know if like you're still seeing black and one of those two is not the problem, and then I'll come back to it. So back to the inputs, we have the input actions, which is going to be the actual thing that we're doing. So this is you name it, and then we can get a hold of it and assign actual buttons to it and modifiers and things like that. So this one's going to be move to underscore IA. And that's all I really need to do with this one because I'm not. Oh, actually, no. That's right. I am going to set this to a 1D axis because I want either positive or negative 1. Otherwise, we're done with that pretty much. And then next, I'm going to get my context. And this is like the situation in which I want to use this. So, no, if I was doing like Grand Theft Auto or something, I would have an on foot and a, in a vehicle and a, menu, and I'd have different context so I could turn on and off what a particular button does based on what I'm doing right now. So this would be that is not what I named you. And then so we just add a mapping, and this is our actions that we have. I'm gonna pick my move to, and then I'm gonna pick the buttons that I want to trigger this. So I want 4 buttons to do stuff. So right, right, left, left. Yeah, so if you click this button right here, it'll do whatever you hit next as your input. Because we're using the keyboard and the mouse, it's really simple. If you're using like gamepads and stuff, you'll have to actually click this little drop down and find what you're looking for in this giant mess of stuff. And then D and right, I want it to return 1 to me, so I'm going to just leave those alone. I want A and left to return an access value of -1. So I'm going to go to modifiers and I'm going to add a negate to this, which is going to reverse it. And that will be the way of letting me know that I am trying to go left and not right. So then with both of those set like that, I'm going to go ahead and save. And I'm going to go back to my pawn. And I have to I have to tell the pawn what I want it to do. So I'm going to right click and underscore IA. And that'll bring up all of my input action things. And I'm going to pick number 2 here. And triggered is going to fire every frame while I'm holding the button. So I'm going to just add actor local offset. This is the shorter version of the other one. It's just looking for how much I want to move and in which direction. It already knows where I am and how I'm rotated. So I'm going to take my action value and multiply that by speed. So I'm going to promote this to a variable. And then once I hit compile, I'll be able to set the default value over here on the right. I'm going to go ahead and say 300 just for fun. And then I'm going to multiply this by delta seconds so that we are tied to time and not frame rate. That's going to be world delta seconds is the name of the function. Yeah, so like I mentioned, this particular event is going to fire every single frame while you're holding the button. If I have a potato and it runs 30 frames a second, and you are awesome and have 120 frame a second computer, you're going to move 4 times faster than me. Because this is going to fire 4 times as often. So you'll actually end up moving way quicker and way further than I do. Unless I make it a fraction of the second that's passed. So to make the math simple, if we're doing a 10 frames per second computer, this is going to return 0.1. My speed times 0.1 is going to be a tenth of that. If you're running an awesome computer and you're doing 60 frames a second, this is going to return, I forget the decimal point, but it's going to be 1/60th of the speed. So you'll move that much. And it basically evens out so that we both move our desired distance over the same amount of time, regardless of the performance of our computers. Does that make sense? Awesome. And then I'm going to split this open because I only want to mess with one of these. And I'm going to plug this into Y because that is my left and right. So if I compile and save, I also have to turn on sweep because I want to bump into stuff. So make sure you check this checkbox if you want to bump into things. With this turned off, you will not do that. Also, teleport here is whether or not you should be using physics. So if this was on and you had physics, then it would add the velocity of the movement. We're not going to deal with physics, but that's just what that does. So now that I have this set up, I still have one last thing to do, and that is I have to tell my input system that I want to listen for this particular event. And we could do this here, but I'm going to do it on the controller just because it's where you should really be doing it. Unless you... The only reason you should do it on the pawn is if you have very specific movements. Like if, if my character is going to be moving differently than the horse or the, spaceship I'm going to have the player take control of later, then I'd put it on the actual pawn. In this instance, because we're not going to do different movements for different things, we're going to just put it on the controller. And then we'll on possess, which means when we actually take possession of our character, of our pawn, we're going to use the enhanced input subsystem. That one. We're going to add the mapping context. Pawn 2. There we go. All right. So now we've told our input subsystem, hey, listen for that mapping context. That mapping context has defined what this is and which button we're supposed to be listening for. And then when we hear it, we've defined what we're going to do about it. Then we're going to save and go back out here. When I hit play, I will now slide left and right, all smooth like. And if I were to throw in another thing, there we go. Actually, so you can do the Control D thing. However, if you hold Alt before you click and then drag, it'll actually just duplicate that way as well. And you can shift click and select multiple things. Do it that way. Delete that one. I'll select both of these, and we're gonna make you taller. Yeah. All right. Cool. So now when I slide left and right, we will bump, and it will stop me. I won't be able to go through. I'm moving forward and backward on left and right. Okay. So if you're moving forwards and backwards, you are probably messing with X, or you're spun funny in here. I'm not really sure which one, but so X is forward as far as Unreal is concerned. So you can see here on my little, where'd you go? Here we go. My little gizmo guy. X pointing that way, and I can actually click on stuff, and you'll see the red arrow points that way. So this is forward as far as we're concerned. If you're doing it on X, then you will move that way. Y is left and right, so that's why we're doing that. If this did spun the other way or whatever, then yeah, you'll get a funny movement. All right. Do we have any other questions, or does anybody not have a moving paddle? So, like to make a game mode, you just right click in here, go to Blueprint class, and create game mode base. To actually open the game mode, yeah, you just double click on the one you have made, and then it'll let you pick on the stuff. Don't see the enhanced input node. So if you go to inside your controller class, if you right click and type in input subsystem, it should like there should be a bunch of them that pop up. If you're over inside your pawn and I type in input subsystem, nothing will pop up because actually, you know what? That's funny. It did still pop up. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure why yours isn't. I can see about it. Like what is the Pong folder? Get name Pong 2. I didn't get any. Like we just remade all the stuff from scratch. I still have all the things in my regular Pong folder. So inside Blueprints, we still have the regular Pong game mode and player controller and all that stuff. Pong 2 is we just went over the basics again. Let me see here. So yeah, go ahead and share your screen. Stop share. All right. Okay, so yeah, so this one you need to add the All right, so this one's slightly different. Let me go ahead and I'll reshare my screen. We'll go over this one. So that was the other method for doing that. So this one is we're getting the actor's right vector, and I'm multiplying that as part of the rest of this. And then we're adding it to the actor's current location. So this, not you. So this one, I'm adding to the position of the thing based on its local orientation. So it's left and right. Whereas this one is setting it based like just in the world wherever I tell it. So I need to both come up with how much I want to move, which direction, and then from where. So we're just doing more math for this one. But so get actor right vector, um, and get actor forward vector and get actor up vector are all built-in functions. You can then, when you're doing a multiply, you can right click on these pins and set them to be whatever you want. So, I can have a vector pin, and then I can right click here and say, actually, I want this to be an integer. And then, set that to 10 and then add a new one and set this one to be a float. So you can multiply all the stuff you want to together. So this one is the direction that we're going times the scalar, so either positive or negative in this direction, so right or left, and then how much, and then we kind of cut it back again by adding time in, and then now we have our direction and our distance, and we add that to our original location, which tells us from where we're going this direction and how far, and that gets us our new location. Does that make sense? All right, awesome. Hey Dave, who was the person I was supposed to take control of their screen? Really? Stop share. Oh, you know what? Actually, you gotta do it the other way around. Yeah, the one you had was looking for like the current rotation, and then it would have told you what the right vector was based on that. You can get it that way, but it's just extra. Uh, where did I don't like this now? Where'd my remote control thing go? Hey Trey, do me a favor. Click share your screen, and then in the upper right hand corner, hit control, and then hit remote control, and then give me access. Yeah. Yeah, I can't just take it from you, apparently. Production move. I know. So once you actually had the once you've made the action, then it should show up in your thing. You just right click and type in underscore IA, and it should be on a short list. Uh, um, so Dalton, in order to make that green, you have to go inside the action asset. So like open up your content drawer and actually go to the move asset, and then change the return value from Boolean to float 1D. Uh, I can't take remote control, but if in the upper right hand corner, she hits well, no, she has to request it from me. So in the upper right hand corner, click on remote control and actually like type in click on my name. put your cursor, like, you see this little green arrow where it says screen sharing? Put your cursor there. Why is it not? Let me go ahead and do it real quick. Let me share my screen real fast. So, can you see this little bar at the top or no? Where it says like share, chat, annotate, all that stuff. Oh, what's that? Okay. I mean, do anybody have any other questions? Yeah, you have. I just answered that 1 minute ago. You have to open up the actual asset for the movement. So the move input action. Yeah, I can share mine. Hold on a second. So inside the actual like input action, come in here, value type. By default, it says Boolean. That's the red one. You want float or 1D axis. And then if you just hit save, it'll make it so it's a green pen, not a red pen. Does anybody else not have a moving paddle? All right, so when you move the cube and if it goes through the wall, there's one of two problems. Either you didn't check this little checkbox, or one of three problems. Your root is not your box, or your box is not set to block stuff. So inside your actual pawn, you want the box to be the root. You want your however you're moving it, whichever node it is, whether it's set actor location or actor offset. You want to make sure the sweep box is checked, and then you want to make sure that the collision for the box is set to block. So when I come over here to the collision section and go to the presets, it is block all. You can also do block all dynamic. It's essentially the same thing. And if I open this up, you'll see it is set to block all of the things. Yeah. So like the sweep thing only, and actually, if you put your cursor on top of this, it'll tell you. It only checks the root component. So even though this has collision and is blocking stuff, this is not. So it's not going to pay attention to it. Anybody else? Yeah, see, like if I click on remote control, it asks me to give mouse or keyboard control to somebody. So you gotta like it's looking like you gotta send me a request to take control. I can't request to take control from you. Yeah, which one? Do you want this one or do you want this one? Okay. Yeah. Mhm. By the way, anytime you guys want math functions, just hit the actual symbol for them. So like asterisk will get you multiply, backslash will get you divide, plus will get you add. anybody else have any questions they didn't ask yet? What's up? Yeah, yeah, I can do that. It'll be like 2 hours or so because I got something else to do right after this. But yeah, I'll do it here shortly. All right, guys. Any other questions before I go?